All right, everyone. Hi, and welcome to the Firewall chat, the next generation of cybersecurity careers. My name is Ralph Bouquet, and I am the outreach coordinator for Nova Labs. Today, I'm really excited to be joined by Ed Skoudis and Tarah Wheeler Van Vlack. We're here today to talk about cybersecurity careers and sort of how we can overcome the cybersecurity skills gap that exists right now. And basically, the reason why we're doing this conversation is October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is organized by the National Cybersecurity Alliance. And this week's theme is about overcoming the cybersecurity skills gap. And more than ever, it's become apparent that this is a space where we need more people across all spectrums of identities, orientations, and backgrounds to be working in. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And so we're going to talk today, just talk about some of the experiences that both Ed and Tarah have had over the course of their careers, sort of what sparked their interest in them, and sort of how we can best prepare the next generation of people who want to work in cybersecurity based on some of the new challenges that we're going to be facing in the space. And so before we do the introduction, I just wanted to start off with a few interesting stats. There's a new survey released by Raytheon about sort of some of these gaps, or the talent gap rather, within cybersecurity space. One of the stats shows that 67% of men and 77% of women in the U.S. said no high school or secondary school teacher, guidance, or career counselor ever mentioned the idea of a cybersecurity career to them, and 61% are unaware or unsure of the typical range of responsibilities involved in a cyber career. Another stat shows that only 54% of parents surveyed said their child or children has received any instruction at school about the safe, secure, and ethical use of technology. Basically meaning that almost half of all school children are completely uninformed about how to stay safe online. Another stat regarding the gender gap shows the gap between men and women increased, men and women considering a career where they could make the internet safer increased fivefold between 2014 and 2015. So that gap is increasing. And then with regards to the amount of programs and activities, 46% of people surveyed said that no cybersecurity programs or activities were available to them. And so we know that these programs exist, but part of the issue here is sort of whether or not we're getting them out there in front of students and of the people who might have the potential to engage in these careers. So today we're going to talk a lot about that and how we can sort of fix that problem and also sort of build upon the experiences of our two guests. So, and just to clarify too why even an organization like Nova is even involved in this, last year we launched the Cybersecurity Lab, which is a web game where you play the role of a CTO of a tech startup company, and you basically have to defend your tech startup against cyber attacks by completing challenges around coding, spotting social engineering, phishing scams, and even cracking passwords. And so this game is available online. It's been available for now over a year, and definitely recommend that you go out and check that. And if you want to check out some of the resources we're going to be talking about, if you click in the four little dots in the upper right-hand corner, you should see some dots that open up these apps. There's an app there called Showcase, where you can click on some of the links to some of these resources that Nova has put together. You can also check out a lot of the resources from both Ed and Tarah, including links to their websites and other resources they've recommended for people who are interested in getting in these careers. There's also a Q&A app, so please, we definitely welcome your questions. And so once we get to that part of the program, I'll definitely hop into the Q&A and see what everyone has to say. So please ask your questions to both Ed and Tarah that you may have regarding our topic for the night. And so I'm going to get started by, of course, introducing our two guests. We're very, very excited to have them be on board and make time in their super busy schedules to talk with us and to talk with you, whoever you may be, whether you're a student or somebody who's just sort of interested in this career. So I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to both of them. So Ed Skoudis is a SANS Institute faculty fellow who teaches thousands of students each year in the fine art of cyber defense, penetration testing, and red teaming. Ed is also the founder of CounterHack, an innovative organization that builds cyber ranges, including NetWars and Cyber City. In his spare time, Ed collects steampunk artifacts. I've seen some of these, they're pretty cool. And antique crypto systems. And you can find him on Twitter at his name, at Ed Skoudis. And Ed, can you just give a big hello to the crowd?
Good to see you there, Ralph, and Tarah. I'm glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
Great, great. And now I'm going to introduce Tarah Wheeler Van Vlack, is co-founder and CEO of Fizzmint, an end-to-end employee management company. She has led projects at Microsoft Game Studios, Halo, and Lips, architected systems at Silent Circle, and holds 2 Agile development certifications, the Scrum Alliance. She founded Red Queen Technologies, LLC, which focuses on web development, InfoSec Unlocked, which is an initiative to add diversity in InfoSec conference speakers, and Hack the People Foundation, nonprofit mentorship and initiative focused on underprivileged people in technology. She acquired her startup funds by cleaning out poker rooms in Northwest and Las Vegas, and she is the lead author of the book Women in Tech, coming March 29th, 2016, which is also one of the links. You can check out that book in the Showcase app, and you can reach her on Twitter simply at Tarah.
Thank you so very much, Ralph. It's a pleasure to be here today. I watched Nova when I was a kid, and I'm kind of a science nerd, and I've got to tell you right now, there is just no words for how nerdy I feel. I think I'm having a great time with you folks today. Thank you.
Great, great. So these are our guests, and I guess I want to start off with like a really basic question, because we've advertised this event as an opportunity to talk with professional hackers, and obviously the word hacker has a lot of stigma in most public forums. People think of hacker, they think of somebody in a ski mask in front of like matrix code, and that's not probably the best description of most hackers, at least the ones that I know, and I'm sure not the ones that both of you know as well. So I guess start off with, what is your definition of a hacker? And Tarah, you can go ahead with this question.
Okay, I'll get us started. Well, I think the definition of a hacker is best described by who other hackers respect. I think that hackers respect someone who disrespects the status quo enough to change it for the better. And if you want to see a little bit of hacking in action, you can look at 2 things I'm doing right now. Sometimes when you try to create the world's most perfect solutions, it just doesn't work. I showed up today for this broadcast and found out that the application we're using just for some reason didn't work for me. So I backed myself up to a whiteboard and wrote my name up on the board. I didn't have time to do my hair, so I stuck a hat on. Sometimes you find a way to make it work. And finding a way to make it work is sometimes the way to get stuff off the ground. And don't let people tell you that something that works isn't good enough. Find a way to make it better.
Great, thank you. Ed, what about you? What do you think?
So Tarah's description was excellent. So there's this idea of improv or ad-libbing as part of hacking, and the way I think of hacking is it is sort of value neutral. It can be used for good, it can be used for evil, and what it really comes down to is manipulating technology to make it do things that people who built it, designed it, implemented it, operate it, didn't expect it to be able to do. So you're kind of pushing on the edges of technology, of social interaction, and I do think ultimately hacking is a noble thing. It can be used for evil, but there's a certain nobility and humanity in hacking, kind of trying to see what's over the horizon and push things beyond where they've gone before. So I view hacking, again, as something that is very powerful, very useful, and it does go wrong. I call people who do that not hackers. They're malicious hackers, or maybe they're bad guys, or sometimes I'll even joke evil bad guys. That's the worst kind of bad guy you'll find, is an evil bad guy. But hacker as a term, I don't like it when people use it to mean that somebody's just bad or they've gone wrong.
Great. And I guess so sort of right now, both of you identify yourselves as sort of professional hackers in some capacity, and I guess I want to know sort of what sparked your interest in sort of the space of cybersecurity and InfoSec. Like, what was there like a key hack that you did at an early age that was like, wait a minute, there's something here, and there's something for me if I continue to do these type of things.
You want to go, Ed?
Yeah, well, you can go ahead, Tarah.
Fair enough. Well, one of the reasons I care so much about diversity in technology is I actually didn't have a lot of those opportunities at an earlier age, and I'm really new, honestly, to hacking. It's only been a few years for me. And one thing I do want to do is kind of point out a little bit the difference between Ed and me here. We are both absolutely hackers, but Ed is a security researcher. There's a difference between the two things. Hacker is a mindset, a kind of person that you are. Security researcher is somebody who does exactly what Ed says, who finds those vulnerabilities, helps to make the world secure. I think that my personal interest in hacking came about when I realized that I was actually hired by someone, a client, reasonably well-known person, several years ago to implement some security measures in his website. I was a skilled front-end web developer at the time, but I knew that I didn't have the knowledge necessary to protect that client's information. And I said, it's probably a pretty good idea maybe to head someplace where there are a lot of InfoSec people, and I could maybe network with them and find some of them. And so I look on the internet, and lo and behold, there's this nifty conference I'd never heard of before called DEF CON in Las Vegas, and I decided it might be a good idea to head down there. Well, I fell down the rabbit hole. I had an amazing time, and I think the real wake-up call for me, that moment where I realized that first, these are my people, and second of all, I'm always going to have a little bit of this happening in the back of my head about what the world is really like versus what we think it's like, is two moments. One was participating in some crazed hacker mental Olympics that was just an amazing. I got adopted by a great crew at DEF CON that year. And second was the first time I ever picked a lock, was 2012. And I said, are you telling me that that's what's standing between me and the bad guys? And I looked at my own house key and said, okay, got a lot of work to do. I think it was that moment that I just flipped a switch and went, I start seeing what's not there instead of just what's there. It's what's not happening, and that's a key mindset, I think, for me, and that was that moment for me, I think.
Yeah, there's something really special when you pick your first lock, and when that thing pops open, it's like magic. I got started as a hacker actually as a teenager. I must have been 14 years old or so, and my parents bought me a modem for my Commodore 64 computer. That kind of dates me. I connected to CompuServe. Many of the people who are listening to this probably don't remember CompuServe, but those that do remember it well. And that was my sort of portal to get out into the outside world. And I developed some friends that way. Ultimately went to college, and in college, developed even my skills further, writing code in a variety of different languages. And when I got out of college, I went to work at Bellcore. It's Bell Communications Research. It's the part of Bell Labs that supported the Baby Bells, right? The local telephone companies. And they gave me this job where I got to hack the phone network for pay. And it blew my mind. Here I am, this kid out of college, and there you go and hack the phone company. In addition, we'd have to respond to hacks against the phone company. And that's how I got started. I've been to 18 DEF CON conferences so far. I do think of going to DEF CON. That's my people, and I love seeing all the good friends there every year. There's many other hacker conferences too, in addition to DEF CON. The ShmooCon conference is fantastic in Washington D.C. There's a great one called DerbyCon that just happened a few weeks ago in Louisville, Kentucky, and there's a lot to be learned, a lot of friends to be made at these hacker conferences, and they tend to be very low cost. So, Tarah mentioned DEF CON, which is the biggest one in the U.S., but there's a bunch of other ones. There's also something called B-Sides, which is smaller events that happen all over the world, actually. They're not even limited to the U.S., and they're great places to go. I'd encourage any of the listeners and watchers here to go to B-Sides or one of these hacker conferences. Don't be nervous or mystified. Don't think you'll be an outcast. In fact, there's a lot of friendly people at these places.
Nice. And so I guess, and again, I just want to remind everybody who's watching right now that if you do have a question for Ed and Tarah, please use the Q&A app located in the upper right hand. You should see these 4 little boxes. You can submit your question there. You can also submit it on Twitter if you tweet to @TheNovaLabs or use the hashtag Firewall Chat. We can also get your questions there as well. So I guess given us some background on what sort of sparked your interest. I guess for a lot of people, this world of cybersecurity is extremely nebulous, and they don't exactly know what that entails with regards to like what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. So I guess can you give us a bit a description of what a typical day in your job looks like, particularly as it pertains to cybersecurity?
Sure. Maybe I'll go with this one, Tara. Is that all right to start out? Okay. So you wake up in the morning. I usually wake up pretty early. I'm a morning person, but I find morning people can be a little annoying. So I'm a sort of self-loathing morning person. But I get up early, and my first thing is I look to see if there were any new vulnerabilities or hacks that were released over the previous night. What's going on in the world? I do this by going into Twitter and looking at various information security professionals to see what is being discussed, what has happened overnight. I look at various vulnerability repositories to see if there's new big issues that have come up. And if there are, I start researching. I need to learn more about them because somebody might ask me about them. I might have customers that call me and need to know. But if the night was quiet, I usually then have 1 or 2 or 3 projects that I'm working on, and my job involves moving those things forward. Some of those projects are giving advice. Somebody's asked me a question saying, hey, how do I fix this flaw? How do I get around this vulnerability? Or I got hacked. How do I deal with that? Usually I get calls from companies or government agencies. Sometimes a project that I'm working on is developing a new capture the flag environment. So it's a place where people can learn and build their skills. I do those projects very regularly. And sometimes I work on developing some new classes. Also, sometimes, these are my favorite days, is where my projects load is kind of light, and I just get to sit at a computer and practice. That's a really important concept, practicing your skills. And I'd encourage anybody who wants to get into a hands-on role in the cybersecurity space, get yourself a laptop that you can just practice on. Pop up a command shell, start typing in commands, do some research. We talk later about some resources for that, but build those skills. You got an extra hour, sit down in front of your laptop and do stuff to practice. Anyway, that's my day. It's built up of building blocks like that.
I was thinking as Ralph was describing Cybersecurity Lab, that's the game I play all day long in real life. I'm the technical co-founder of my startup, and the defending against phishing attacks, creating security for the people that are trusting me with their personal information. This is what I do on an everyday basis. So I have a game, a real life that's like a video game, and there's just nothing better than this. In the same way that Ed is just loving the fact that he wakes up every day and gets to do something new, there's always something new about this. And yet, as someone who handles compliance issues and data that people hand me, I have to be very aware of information security best practices when it comes to things like security, very about keeping private. And so I keep up on the challenges of information security, and I do my best to make sure that there's not just a firewall, there's a castle with ramparts and dragons and swords and maybe a moat in front of all of that personal data that I'm helping to keep secure in our company. So on an everyday basis, that's absolutely what I do, is just play that video game all day long in real life. And there's a hefty dose of Twitter and some self-deprecation in there, I think.
Great. Thank you so much for those responses. And so I guess, so that's what your job looks like now. But I'm wondering, now that we have sort of this growing Internet of Things, where everything now from like our dry cleaner, our like laundry machines to our refrigerators, is all sort of getting plugged in now. And how will that sort of change our approach to cybersecurity? I recently actually posted a video that we made at Nova about how to hack a car, and it showed this team that basically sat, in their office and had a person on the ground, and they were able to actually just remotely turn on the car, use its blinkers to let the person know which car it was, and the person was able to get in the car and drive off with it. And this was a few years ago. So now, that this ecosystem has increased even more. How will that sort of change our approach to cybersecurity?
I think it's going to really ramp everything up. I saw a statistic today that there's over 250 million cameras that are professionally deployed. These are cameras that are connected to computer networks, 250 million of them, that are in shopping malls and businesses and parking lots. And that's just cameras that are professionally deployed. There's all the ones that are, deployed by people in their own houses that weren't done by professionals, and that's just cameras. People are putting toys on the internet. This holiday season, there's going to be a whole bunch of new toys that are released. That the toy itself can download new content, talk with children, interact with children, pull in GPS location to track children. I mean, it's incredible. This Internet of Things, the Internet of Toys, it's going to require a lot of very skilled people to be able to secure these billions of objects. They're going to all be connected to the net and all be smart in a sense, like your smartphone is smart. So we have a deficit, as you mentioned at the start of this session, in skills needed to secure this thing. The Internet of Things is going to make that deficit far worse, far worse. That's why I'm really happy to see that NOVA's doing this to try to help get people involved with cybersecurity careers.
And I think it's very important in terms of the Internet of Things to not think that the smallness or apparent inoffensiveness of a thing doesn't make it not a target. Here's a good example of that. This is my Fitbit. I sewed a different band for it because I don't happen to like the normal one. I think the black velvet fits my style a little bit better. So my Fitbit, here it is, stuck on the inside of this thing. It takes security researchers 10 seconds to hack my Fitbit as of a hack that was released 2 days ago. And no matter how many firewalls I have on my computer, no matter how much security I have going on, if one of my employees can walk in with a Fitbit and my entire network is owned, then what I've done is assume that because something seems so small and so tiny and so irrelevant to the network and the security boundaries that I've created, I have let myself be tricked into thinking that something small is unimportant. And I don't know how that downloadable content's going to end up on the kitty toy, but I'm actually kind of composing the social media posts in my head already about that one. So yeah, don't be deceived by thinking that because something is a refrigerator that it doesn't make you vulnerable.
Right, and the attacks against these things, you say, well, how would somebody attack my refrigerator? And what if they could get into it? Who cares? Well, what if somebody could attack your refrigerator and just shut it off so that it ruins all your food? I mean, look, that's bad news. Maybe you're on vacation for a week. You come home, your house stinks really badly. Okay, that's survivable. What if they could hack into your refrigerator, change some of the firmware in there, and make it get hot, and maybe actually make it catch on fire? I mean, these are significant attack vectors and concerns. Tarah points out it's not just the size of something. I would agree with that 100%, but also point out it's not really necessarily its individual functionality. It's what somebody can do to make that functionality go wrong, and then how can we prevent that from happening? Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. I mean, I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, we're all doomed. Our refrigerators are going to catch on fire. This is an amazing time to live in. Wow! I mean, you're going to have a refrigerator on the internet.
What a time to be alive.
and your toys will interact with each other and play and shoot and talk. There's drones, and drone hacking is a big thing now. This is fantastic, but we do need to work diligently to make it more secure.
Great. No, that's a great answer. And yeah, I mean, definitely you can hear an answer like that and just start looking at every single item, in your house plugged in and see a potential threat. But I think it's very important to sort of have that consciousness about, where we're going from here. And so I guess to sort of jump on that question, is there any specific industry that you think has sort of the biggest need for stronger cybersecurity measures?
Tarah, you want to go on that one?
I have a lot of opinions on this one, but I think that if there's any industry that needs stronger cybersecurity measures, it's the ones, and I'm going to give a class of them instead, it's the ones that assume that they're not vulnerable. They think that because most of their work is done on pen and paper or away from the internet, or that they are somehow exempt from being hacked, those are the ones that are in the most danger, I personally think. It's one of the reasons why I care about something like employee compliance, because who really thinks about hacking HR? That's just dull, and yet such valuable information is to be found there. You got to be very careful about that. I think governments are a little too worried, and private industry isn't worried enough. is what I genuinely think. So I'll let Ed kind of circle in on some of the more specifically vulnerable industries. I have a larger philosophical approach to this one, so go for it, Ed.
I mean, there's so many to choose from. That's the hard thing here. I do think that .gov is a problem, especially at the local and state level. You know, I mean, federal agencies, they're working hard. They're trying to get stuff done, and you know, there's a whole mixed bag. Some are very secure, some are not. But if you go below the federal level to state and local government, there's not a lot of InfoSec going on there, and they're handling some very sensitive data. You know, there's criminal records that local governments have to deal with and state governments. There's records of taxation. There's records of health. There's employee records of government employees. So I think .gov, but outside of the federal level, is an area of big concern. But there's so many other industries that need help. Oh, also in that .gov related thing would be law enforcement. And they need a lot of people because, first of all, for crime investigation, so many crimes that happen today use a computer as part of the crime. We have some very skilled officers today. We need a lot more that can bring that knowledge into their jobs.
And to kind of further along that thought of government agencies needing that kind of help, I think the reason I mainly say that governments are too worried and private industry isn't worried enough is because I have a lot of people asking me about cyber terrorism. Cyber terrorism is not, and that's what people are afraid of, I think, at the government level. They're too afraid of that and not afraid enough of simply something as like the OPM hack that just happened a few months ago. That's much more dangerous to many millions more people than some nebulous concept of what if they changed all the traffic lights. I'm a lot more scared of 3 million people's personal records going on the internet than I am about a green light turning red.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I mean I've recently read something about to Ed's point about law enforcement too, of like many of them aren't equipped, for example, to deal with cases of harassment that happens online as well, and the threats that are made, and people just look at them and say, or often law enforcement is just like, well, get offline and it'll go away. And I think that's another area too where people aren't, or law enforcement isn't equipped to sort of address that in a proactive way as well.
I remember I was at a law enforcement conference about 10 years ago, so this is quite a while ago, and about 125 officers in the room. I was in front talking about cybersecurity, and I made this bold prediction. 10 years ago, I said, you just wait. 5 years from now, almost every case you folks deal with is going to have a computer and computer evidence in it. And a guy raised his hand. He said, Ed, that's not 5 years from now. That's now. So 10 years ago, that was the case. It's even more so now. That they have to be able to deal with the evidence. That's how it comes in. Online stalking, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. There are other industries, though, beyond law enforcement and .gov. You know, financial services, manufacturing. I mean, there's just a litany of different places that need a lot of cybersecurity skills.
And I've actually been a target of exactly what you're talking about on a couple of different occasions, really badly in both 2012 and this year, 2015. And I remember very distinctly in 2012 explaining I called into my local police department and said, you need to be aware that I'm experiencing extreme quantities of death and rape threats, that these are people threatening to come to my house, I'm getting packages, you know, what do I do here? And I called into my local PD and said, you know, you guys are the ones that are supposed to be rolling past my house, right? And, you know, God bless him, the 23-year-old buzzcut I was on the phone with said, well, I just looked you up, and has it ever occurred to you to just take your resume off the internet? That's not an effective way to handle that kind of harassment, that level of it. I can do nothing but sympathize with this kid. I mean, I'm sure he looked around and said, there's no protocol to handle anything like this. He referred me to the Seattle PD and said maybe they've got more resources. The Seattle PD said the FBI handles this. The FBI didn't take my calls. And ultimately, I just came to the realization that no one was coming to help me. And that's, I think, the realization of a lot of people who experience that kind of terror on the internet. And after a while, you become just really fatalistic about it, honestly, because there's no law enforcement solution for 1 million people doing that. This year, I got blacklisted by a white supremacy group in Europe for putting out the Women in Tech book, and there's no one to call. There's no phone number. There's no hotline for that. So, you know, I've seen some people try really hard to create some solutions for it. I think there's there's a way to handle that, and a couple of them. To be honest, I think that the conversation needs to be a lot more compassionate and a lot more understanding that jurisdiction just became really bloody irrelevant. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess, I mean, from there, I guess this sort of leads to the next question too. I mean, what do both of you think are some of the challenges that are facing right now the cybersecurity workforce, particularly when it involves issues around sort of the talent gap that exists across?
Ed on that one, since he's actually hiring security researchers.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is new blood. Getting new people, young people interested and excited about this stuff. You know, you cited some of the research that came out, just recently about how there's just not enough new people, especially in the U.S., that are interested in this kind of thing. I find that sad. I find it frustrating. I think we need to have some new thinking about how to get people involved, how to make this fun and exciting. You know, I mean, I never hear somebody say, wow, gee, you know, we need a lot more lawyers, yet there seem to be people just fascinated with becoming lawyers all the time. We do say we need a lot more InfoSec professionals, yet there's not that interest there. So we've got to connect with people. We're working on some projects where we're trying to get young people involved, people in the high school level and people in the college level. I've got a project that I'm working on called the Pivot Project. And the idea of the Pivot Project, it's totally free, and we make available hands-on labs just to practice. And we're hoping that some folks will use these in college clubs. Because, you know, college clubs get together, maybe a computer club or computer security club, and they want to have some stuff that they can do. Have some fun, order some pizza, get some sodas, and the Pivot Project will give them labs so they can sit at the keyboard and have some fun socially interacting with their computer club, but sharing ideas, working together through some puzzles and challenges. But that's just one little thing, and I think there's a lot more that we as an industry can do to get people interested. Also reaching to them in their high school levels and getting high school teachers involved. For the people that are watching this hangout, talk with the folks. If you've got kids that are in high school, or if there's a local high school that you know a teacher at, talk with them and see how we can encourage them to get their kids involved with this and get their fingers on the keyboard. I think that's the most important thing, to not be intimidated by the technology, but to really try to use the technology and get familiar with it.
And I love to see the effort of getting people interested in the industry in the first place. I'm very concerned with making sure that we don't just get people interested in cybersecurity, but that we retain them once they're there. And I think that while I've talked about a couple of scary things that have happened to me on the internet, one of the most joyful things in my life are the people that I know in the InfoSec world. And I think that while we talk, and certainly Jennifer Granick, a very respected woman in InfoSec, spoke very recently in the last couple of days about the gap widening in the gender gap in information security. I think that what I would really love, especially women, young women coming into cybersecurity and InfoSec, to know is this. Damn the industry. Find your crew. Find people that you care about who will help you, who will advocate for you. There's nothing like an InfoSec conference on the buddy system. I promise you. It's a great experience. And when you find those people, you're not exposed to the whole industry all the time, right? I mean, sure, there's those stories out there, but when you've got a great crew of people, those are the people that are going to keep you coming back again and again, and they're the ones you're going to interact with. The InfoSec industry as a whole, you don't talk to everybody. You talk to the 20 people you care about most and the 300 people that you know by name who you work with or interface with at those conferences. Those are the people that matter to you. Find those. Find your crew. And realize not all hackers are in a basement somewhere. I mean, I kind of have a basement. I kind of sit in my basement a lot. But hey, it's okay. Hackers wear lipstick. Hackers wear killer fedoras. Hackers are everything, and you can be that person. Hackers wear mohawks. Hackers wear suits. Hackers wear jewelry. Hackers don't wear jewelry. Hackers are tall. They're short. They're fat. They're thin. They're everything out there. Sometimes they're girls. Sometimes you have no idea what you're looking at because they're in some kind of costume that's just a little bit strange, but you're not sure whether or not they could own your computer in under 5 seconds, so you're going to be respectful to them anyway. Hackers are everybody, and you can fit in just by being yourself.
Well said.
Great, thank you. That's a great answer. Yeah, so I think I want to jump into some of the questions. You've got quite a few that I want to make sure we get a chance to address. So the first question was from Parker McGee, and he asked, Ed mentioned practicing, I think, earlier in the conversation. What are some ways he recommends practicing?
So I recommend you get a computer system, whatever computer system you'd like. It could be a Macintosh, it could be a Windows machine, it could be something else. But I recommend that you install a virtualization product on it, like VirtualBox, because that way you can have more than one computer all on one computer. So you could have a Linux computer running on top of a Windows computer, all with the same hardware. And you could do that for free. I mean, if you got the Windows machine and the hardware, you could put VirtualBox on there, put Linux on top of that, and then you can practice going back and forth between the two machines. So, because you got to build yourself a little lab, you got to kind of get yourself started here. Also, for specific things to read about, you can read about the latest vulnerabilities that are coming out in Windows or Linux machines to better start understanding what's happening in the community. But as I said before, nothing beats popping up a command shell and just starting to get familiar with the different commands in the operating system and what they do and some of the foundational security tools that we have available to us.
Something I would absolutely love to add to this is I'm sitting in the college. I teach a couple of classes in two, and one of the things that I drill into their heads and is a quote from a gentleman named Ryan Clark called Lost in our community, and I love this, and I say it to every single one of my classes on the first day. When you have a question, the first thing that I want to know is, did you try it first?
Right.
Did you try it on your own first? And if you've tried it first, then maybe I won't tell you to Google it. Maybe I'll give you a hand with it. But try it first. If you want to know whether or not electricity conducts through some kind of material through the back of a chair, did you try it first? If you want to know if it's possible to, I don't know, pick a 17,000 pin lock, did you try it first? You know, or if you don't know how to try it, did you reach out to the people who seem like they know something about it? Did you reach out to those? They'll talk to you. Anybody will talk to you, and they'll help you find resources to learn. Show that you're willing to try the thing first, and then you'll discover with beginner's brain new stuff that the rest of us don't know yet. That's what we want to know.
That's so good. Yep.
Great, thank you so much. So jump to the next question by Maureen, and she asked, if you were a company that managed huge amounts of confidential data, where would you look to hire cybersecurity folks? Hackathons? Which schools are putting out folks you jump to bring on board?
I think that's a great question for Tarah to start with.
I am absolutely in the process of protecting that information. The first thing that you do is find somebody very smart who's deeply embedded in the InfoSec community to help you be an additional voice as you're hiring those people. Spread out the questions, and one of the reasons why is, as someone who doesn't just hire cybersecurity people, I hire tech people, I hire web designers, developers, services people, database engineers. The reason that you find other people to help you in the process to evaluate people is there's no way for everybody to be a professional at everything. I can't have the skill set that lets me evaluate whether or not someone's good at their job, and if I'm not good at their job, why do I need them? So you need to find people to help you evaluate others. A very good proxy for that is online and personal reputation in the community. But hackathon is not really for hackers, sort of. There's not really a good way to put this. That's for people who want to build something fast, which is a great idea. It's a great way to do it, but it's not how I would hire an InfoSec professional. I would probably, and just as I've been doing all along, develop strong relationships in the community and get some opinions. Barring that, and if you don't have the time or bandwidth to do that, find people in the community who have those kinds of skills. Do it. If I want to evaluate, I might whisper solutions, the talks that they've done, and tell me, do they know what they're talking about, and are they willing to learn more? That's how I hire.
Sure. And the specific question also addressed some schools that do this kind of stuff and turn out really good people. There are a variety of them across the country. Purdue University has a tremendous program in cybersecurity. Georgia Tech does as well. There are many others. Also, it doesn't necessarily have to have a university backing. There are a lot of people with a lot of great skills that have security certifications, and looking into their security certification to ensure that to verify that they don't have just the book smarts, but also the hands-on keyboard smarts and the practical smarts to make security real. I think would be a good idea.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so let's jump on. We have, I think, 2 more questions. So this question comes from Norman. He asks, with the recent article by Parallax Security News on diversity in the InfoSec field, noting some of the issues with diversity in InfoSec, how do we create a more inclusive field?
Are we waiting for me to have an answer to that first? Let's see here. There's a lot of different answers to that question. I think, personally, what I believe when I talk to people about this issue is that screaming at others doesn't ever help anything. Angry panels talking about why everything is wrong doesn't solve anything. I like Abraham Lincoln's solution. Tell a story. Talk to people about what matters to others, what has worked in the past, and make the notion of people with all different kinds of views part of the narrative of what you're creating. Talk about why it is that it matters that we have different perspectives. In the hacker and InfoSec community, we care deeply that someone thinks differently than we do. And to try to find those people, we often have to build this image in our head about who has authority, who knows the field. We didn't really think about having a woman president until we saw Gina Davis do it in Commander-in-Chief. We didn't really think about Morgan Freeman or about black people being president until we saw Morgan Freeman do it like 14 times, right? So we believe what we see, and that narrative needs to be improved. I think we need to very strongly focus on getting women and people of color in positions of authority as moderators and speakers on panels, as speakers at conferences, and that's why I care about that and focus specifically on that. It's great to bring people in, but there has to be a place for them to go. And there still needs to be a way to get to the top of the industry. I believe there's a lot of problems still getting women on panels.
And another thing that I think we could do, those of us that have been in the industry a while, is if we see somebody misbehaving, if we see somebody doing something that is exclusionary or being a jerk or cruel to somebody, I'm not big on calling them out publicly, because that often just turns into a shouting fest. But instead, pulling them aside, one-on-one, sending a direct message on Twitter, picking up the phone and calling them. I've done this on several occasions. Say, look, what you did here, that's not good for the hacker community. We're better than that. And you get them into that position. Try to talk them up and to pull them out of maybe exclusionary or just cruelty. You do see it, and it's frustrating. So I do a lot of those kinds of things behind the scenes. On occasion, you do have to call somebody out. I mean, face to face, say what you're doing there is absolutely just wrong. And there are other folks that do that pretty well in the industry. I think we need to do more of it.
Great, thank you so much. That's a great answer, from both of you. So the last question. So I guess this question is to Ed. Do you have more information on the Pivot project?
Sure. The Pivot project, we have a GitHub account where you can download. Right now we have 4 labs. Our hope is that we're going to build this up into 20 labs or 100 labs. We're working on a website. We're having it professionally developed. It's not done yet. And again, we're doing this all for free. There's no advertisement or anything like that. This is just done to help people. It's a labor of love, trying to help the community out. Right now there's only 4 projects, and they're on GitHub, GitHub. If you go to GitHub, do a search for the Pivot project, you'll find it. Not just Pivot, because there's other stuff called Pivot. So it's the Pivot project. You can download our 4 labs. One is on file carving, so you can use forensics tools to kind of go through files and pull out useful information from some packet captures. We've got a couple on the Nmap scanning tool, and we've got another one that is a forensics adventure where you're trying to save stuffed animals from doom. So it's got kind of a funny premise, but those 4 projects are all available. They're free, and I think you'll have a good time with them.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so it seems we're running right on schedule, it seems, with time, and there don't appear to be any more additional questions. And so I guess I'm just going to ask one last closing question to both of you. And basically that question is, what do you recommend so to those who want to follow in your footsteps? What do you think are the big ideas or the big takeaways that they should consider as they start approaching this field.
Tarah, you want to go first? I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. So the big takeaway I'm going to say in this field, I'm going to say there's two of them. One is be someone other people can trust. We as cybersecurity professionals, as people who are part of this community, we have much more power than many people in the world. We've got a great deal of it. We see the things other people don't see. Be someone other people will trust with their information, and live up to that, because you're going to be someone that is trusted to deal with information other people are afraid. If there's anything I can tell you to take away from this, it is this: serve your community. It will return the favor. Find people in the InfoSec community who need help and help them. The only thing that you need to mentor someone is to know one more thing than they know. Find a way to give back to this community, and it will absolutely welcome you with open arms and help you to learn and to grow as a person.
That's so good. It reminds me, what Tarah just said, of some advice I got when I was starting my information security career. And a guy named Avi Rubin said to me, he said, Ed, remember that your name is your personal brand, and you want it to be associated with integrity and high quality. And that is exactly what Tarah was just talking about, and that is so good. One thing I would add to that that goes kind of in a different direction is build yourself a lab. Even with one computer, call it your lab. Just get your head into that mindset that you can start experimenting. And it is amazing how shallow some of the research is, so that you can just bring the new set of eyes, like Tarah said earlier. What you bring is the fact that you're new to this, and you might discover things in Windows PowerShell, or you might discover things in Linux Bash that other people really never thought of, and you just kind of come into it with a fresh set of eyes. But if you don't have your lab, again, maybe just your laptop with virtualization software on it and your fingers on the keyboard, if you don't have that, I don't think you'll get rolling on the technical side of these things. Don't be intimidated by it. Have some fun. There's a lot of great blogs and resources to read. I encourage people to do that.
Great, thank you so much. Those are great answers. And again, I'm just so excited and happy that both of you were able to participate in this conversation. And I'm sure that people watching at home have gained a lot from it. I know I certainly have. And so, again, I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of some of these resources. Definitely with Ed, the SANS Institute, and also sort of the Counter Hack Challenges community. And again, you could check out these resources in the Showcase app, and also Tarah's book, Women in Tech, coming out in 2016 in March. Definitely check that out, and also check out the work that she's doing at Fizzmint. And again, definitely, if this is something that really sparks your interest and you are a student who wants to sort of get a little bit of practice on what this sort of field looks like, definitely check out Nova's Cybersecurity Lab game. I'll definitely give you a very sort of intro to a lot of these issues, particularly pertaining social engineering, and giving you sort of a basic intro to coding, and also sort of some of the ways that people crack passwords. And there also are videos as well. There's a really great video also available called The Secret Lives of Hackers. It sort of gives an overview on the history of hacking. And so, excuse me, but definitely recommend that you check out these resources, and definitely let us know if you have any questions. Again, you can reach both Tarah and Ed on Twitter. Tarah is at Tarah with an H at the end, and Ed is at Ed Skoudis on Twitter as well. So definitely check them out, and this video will also be available on YouTube, and that information will be there as well. So please feel free to reach out to both of them. And again, thank you so much, Tarah and Ed, for joining this conversation. And yeah, if you have any sort of last closing thoughts, or just want to give a shout out to anybody, feel free to do that.
Well, Ralph, I'd like to give a shout out to you. Thanks for putting this whole thing together. This is just a delight to do. So thank you for your time and the opportunity to talk with people about some important stuff. I also like to thank Tarah. Fascinating stuff she brought up.
Let me echo. I've got a little bit of a glitch there. Let me echo what Ed has said. Thank you so much, Ralph, for putting this together. This has been extraordinary. And if I can tell one last piece of advice to everybody, it's this: don't be scared on the internet. You're not only not bothering us, we want to hear from you. And sometimes I let my own fear of bothering people that I think are amazing or uber or crazy awesome stop me from reaching out to them. Don't let that fear stop you. Reach out and ask questions and you'll get answers.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, both of you. And yeah, everyone have a great night. And again, follow up with us on Twitter if you have any additional questions. And definitely check out a lot of the resources that they've mentioned in the conversation. So thank you again, both of you, and have a great night, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.